If somehow I had the ability to go back in time, I would probably visit my younger self when I was a freshman. I'd say something like, "Hey buddy, practice your drawing skills because you are presenting your graduation project drawn as a stickman." Trust me, Paul, it's going to get real crazy in a couple of years. We're basically going to become some sort of open English teachers in the future. Whoa, and also remember to buy a lot of hand sanitizer. You're going to thank me later. Bye now. Wow, that must have been confusing. But I get it. Having an educational context like this one was totally out of the picture at that time. But that is actually the beauty of teaching, isn't it? You never know what the future will bring, and this unpredictability pushes teachers to do two things: adjust and innovate. And that is precisely the basis of this action research project. So, good afternoon everybody, my name is Alexis Inostroza, and my project is called The Role of Computer-Assisted Language Learning in Improving Students' Listening Skills in a Remote Learning Environment. In general words, computer-assisted language learning, also known as CALL, is an interactive instructional technique whereby computers are used to deliver the contents and materials that students need in order to develop language skills. Although this technique is commonly used in the EFL classroom, we don't know much about the impact of CALL on listening comprehension in an entirely online instruction environment. So the main proposal of this action plan is the creation of a website which purpose is to grant students an easy access platform where they can find materials and tasks meant to increase their listening abilities. But before getting into these specifics, we need to get familiar with the group of students selected for this proposal, their background and needs. So let's begin with a contextualization. My assigned class is an 11th grade, which has a total number of 34 students. 19 of them are female and 15 are male. In terms of the English subject, this group has 3 pedagogical hours a week, and their level of proficiency is estimated to be B1. This group has demonstrated to have a balanced English level. However, there are still some exceptional students that show either higher or lower skills. In terms of learning styles, this class has a tendency to preferring visual and auditory materials, and there are no students presenting special educational needs. In light of today's reality, this class works with a virtual learning environment platform and through Microsoft Teams. This information was vital for me because it made my pedagogical proposal meaningful and plausible, because these students were already familiar with the modality of online teaching and had the necessary resources for it. Finally, in order to determine the student's need, I apply 4 data collection instruments: analytic field notes, a questionnaire for the English department head teacher, a survey for the student's English teacher, and a collection of samples from the materials used by the teacher with the students. These instruments helped me recognize a concerning lack of listening comprehension practice that needed urgent reinforcement. Hence, the decision of applying CALL is a potential response to this dilemma, as it has been proven to be a very motivating method that can be particularly effective to improve listening skills. My research question is thus, how can CALL be implemented in a remote learning environment so as to provide students significant opportunities for practicing and applying learning strategies? Let's find out. Now, I will briefly review the main theoretical concepts that compose this pedagogical intervention. CALL is a very versatile technique, which means that it grants creators full control over the contents and the way they are displayed. So, in order to exploit CALL's full potential, I added 4 main elements to this intervention. These are authentic listening materials, multisemiotic resources, help options, and anchor activities. Let's go over each one of them briefly. First, I decided to include authentic listening materials because this group was mostly exposed to the contextualized ones. According to Emmerich 2019, authentic materials provide a more complete experience to language learners, as they expose students to important features of natural speech, such as self-corrections, reformulations, hesitations, among others. Second, multisemiotic resources are defined as the combination of 2 or more meaning-making systems such as images, fonts, colors, etc. Third, help options are embedded application resources that seek to assist learners in performing computing operations and serve as a support for language learners as well. In my case, I added help options in the form of advice boxes, video navigation bars, and vocabulary support. Cárdenas Claro and Gruba explain that a well-designed core material should always include help options, as they can reduce the students' frustration while using electronic devices, contribute to clarification of misinterpretations, and draw attention to specific linguistic features. Help options, therefore, do not only contribute in helping struggling students, but also foster autonomous learning. Lastly, anchor activities are activities that students can move to once they have completed their assigned work. Hapful 2007 explains that anchor activities fulfill an important role in addressing the diversity of the class, as they help advanced students achieve higher goals. Finally, in terms of strategies, I borrowed 4 strategies from the taxonomy proposed by Graham and Santos 2015. These strategies are word recognition, chunk recognition, self-evaluation, and task evaluation strategies. These 4 strategies were chosen in order to create a balance between cognitive and metacognitive strategies. The former are strategies used to solve problems, whereas the latter are strategies that are employed in order to plan, monitor, evaluate, control, and understand the learning process. This balance is important because this action plan is not only designed for helping students achieve higher goals, but also for guiding them into becoming critical thinkers on assessing both their learning and evaluation tools. Now let's move on to the action plan itself. The intervention consists of 6 weekly sessions of 40 minutes each, and the final outcome is that students will be able to recognize key vocabulary words and chunks in a real-life spoken video while using listening strategies. The specific objectives for each class will be presented along with the description of each lesson. Let's begin. In the first lesson, students will be introduced to the objective, contents, and length of the intervention. They will also sit for a pretest in order to gather information about their starting level. Some questions include multisemiotic resources so as to address different learning styles, and also contain help options, such as advice boxes and video navigation bars. During the second lesson, students will study adjectives and their functions in language. By the end of this class, they will respond a 5-question Kahoot questionnaire containing contents studied in class. In Lesson 3, students will review the contents from the previous class in an online worksheet, which they will use to practice the word recognition strategy. It is worth mentioning that this worksheet is scaffolded and contains vocabulary support, help options, and anchor activities, as well as multisemiotic resources to illustrate explanations. In Lesson 4, the students will train the chunk recognition strategy through an online worksheet. By the end of this class, they will answer a 3-question Socrative questionnaire where they will apply the self-evaluation strategy to evaluate their learning so far. Lesson 5 will mainly be a review session where the most common concerns of the students will be addressed. At the very beginning of the class, students will receive an uptake sheet for them to complete as the lesson goes on. In the last session, the students will sit for a post-test, which purpose is to measure the students' progress and growth during the intervention. By the end of this class, the students will receive a checklist where they will apply the task evaluation strategy by assessing the quality of the instruments used. As a final reflection, throughout the process of creating this action plan, I learned about the importance of considering authentic materials to practice listening skills, because they connect students with English culture and real language in use. I would also like to address the importance of differentiated instruction, as it helps building a more inclusive environment in which all students are equally considered. In terms of limitations, I think that the main issue with my pedagogical proposal was the fact that it offers little room for interaction among students. Another important constraint was its time-consuming nature. Creating a website from zero was definitely a tough task to carry out. Despite all these facts, though, I consider this action plan as a milestone in my training process because it helped me realize about the importance of adapting to different realities and educational contexts. I honestly believe that this action plan reflects my willingness to innovate and take risks by stepping out of the commonly used traditional methods. As a final statement, I understand that being a teacher means being part of a never-ending process of growth and learning. This has been my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hey buddy, I come from the future. What year is this?
2020.
Oh, Is this before or after education was changed to be inclusive with reptiles due to the arrival of intelligent space dinosaurs?
Oh boy.